in Chemistry, the show where we pour something smooth, speak something real, and create chemistry that doesn't come with emotional hangovers. I'm your host, Chafe, and tonight we're talking about something that affects all of us. It doesn't matter if we are single, dating, married, or somewhere in between. Tonight's episode is called Save the Date. Not because you've met the one or because you've recently gotten engaged, but because a lot of us keep showing up to dates without checking our capacity, our intentions, or our emotional availability. And then we act surprised when it doesn't work out. So we're going to talk about how to save you from yourself. Save the way that you are dating. We're going to save the date. This episode is for the grown folk who want connection but keep running into confusion, burnout, or deja vu, or really not running into anything because they're too afraid to get back out there because of the way they've been burned before. We are not here to shame the mistakes. We are here to try and correct the pattern. So before you invite someone into your calendar, let's make sure that you are mentally ready to keep the appointment. And before we get into it, let me do a quick check-in. I'm going to ask you a few questions. Are you dating out of curiosity or loneliness? Are you seeking a connection or a distraction? Are you genuinely interested in starting a real chemistry connection, or just bored and you don't want to continue to be at home by yourself at night? There's no judgment here, family. I just want you to be honest with yourself so you can recognize how you are showing up. Because chemistry without clarity turns into chaos very quickly. Now, how are you walking into this space? Maybe a little unsure of what this conversation might stir up. That's understandable, because I'm walking into this conversation introspective. I'm laughing at myself a little because of how naive I was to think I had it all figured out. I'm not here to shame anyone, including myself. I've mishandled chemistry. I've missed moments. I've confused being chill for presence and protection for maturity. I'm here to talk about the things that we do quietly, the things that we don't post or talk about. The moments where chemistry slipped, not because it wasn't real, but we just didn't slow down long enough to handle it with care. So wherever you are right now, unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, and take a breath. Pour something for yourself. And don't be acting like you can't think of anything to put in your glass. I've given you several ingredients for some sexy sipping over the past episodes. And if you're smoking with me tonight, go ahead and light your cigar. Now, before I tell you a story about a reformed adult dater, let's step into the flavor lounge for our glass and ash moment. And before I get into the meaning of this drink, let me tell you how to make it, because remember, intention starts with preparation in everything. You're going to grab a glass and put in as much ice as you like. I don't like a lot of ice because I don't want my drink or my chemistry watered down. Pour in about 2 ounces of tequila. About that much. If you go over it, nobody's going to be upset with you. Top it with ginger beer, not ginger ale. You want that bite of ginger beer, but if ginger beer is a little too strong for you, ginger ale will be a low-grade second. Then you're going to squeeze in 3 fresh lime wedges. Drop the wedges in, and you can even muddle them a little bit if you want. give it one slow stir. Not rushed, not aggressive, just enough to bring everything together. Isn't that kind of how dating should work too? Now let's talk about what's really in this glass. So tequila is truth. Not who they could be, who they are right now. Who you see in front of you right now. Not the potential, not what you hope they could be, who they are now. Ginger beer is balanced with a backbone. It reminds you that chemistry should wake you up, not knock you off of your axis. And those 3 limes, they aren't just garnish. Those are standards. The first lime is clarity. Because if you don't know what you want, you'll drink whatever gets poured into your glass. The second lime is boundaries. Because attraction is not permission. And the third lime, you know it's intention. If you don't date on purpose, you end up entertaining confusion and calling it chemistry. This drink is refreshing, but it lets you know it's there, just like a grown connection should. On the ash, you already know, say it with me, a medium-bodied cigar. I know that you are thinking, Chafe always got a medium-bodied cigar. But it's because I usually have my bold body in the glass, and a good cigar doesn't reveal itself in the first pull. You don't even know what you're holding until you let it burn. If you rush it, it overheats. If you force it, it turns bitter. And if you keep puffing just because it's already lit, you're going to end up choking on something that you should have put down a long time ago. And you know what's funny? Dating works the same way. So slow the pace. Let people reveal themselves as they always do. And pay attention to how it develops, not just how it starts. A lot of us get that first initial spark, and we get so focused on how it started, the initial attraction, that we forget to pay attention to how it's actually developing. And please remember, you are not obligated to keep smoking just because you already struck the match. Some connections are meant to be enjoyed. Some are meant to be released. Your wisdom comes in knowing the difference. So come on, let's sip. And let's puff. Now, on to the confessions of a reformed, maybe adult dater. All right, so y'all know I'm gonna tell y'all something about me. I'm intelligent, self-aware, emotionally literate, and still, I have made some questionable dating decisions. Not bad decisions like, oops, this was the wrong restaurant mistakes. No, I mean mistakes like, why did I give this person access to my peace? Mistakes. So let's start with the availability era. There was a season where I thought dating meant availability. If I had a free night, sure, I'll go on a date. If the vibes were decent, okay. And if the conversation made me laugh once, uh-oh, girl, this might be turning into something. I was out here saving dates like calendar notifications with no intention of actually checking the agenda. Then there was the I got my hair done era. One time, true story, I went on a date knowing good and well I was tired, overstimulated, and emotionally unavailable, but I still went. Why? Because I had just got my hair done. That was the reason, y'all. My hair was done, so clearly I had to be seen. The whole time I'm sitting across from this person, nodding politely, sipping my drink, and thinking, I really don't like you enough for me to be outside. And instead of listening to that very reasonable inner voice, when I got asked, can we do this again? I said, sure, let's do this again sometime. Why do we do that? Why do we say yes to things that we clearly have no interest in? Then there was the era where I thought chemistry meant compatibility. I'll just call it the chemical confusion era. If the conversation flowed, if the laughter came easy, if there were a few fireworks, I ignored the fact that our schedules never lined up, our values didn't match, or our communication styles lived on two completely different continents. Because, the vibe was good, so I said, we'll figure it out. No. We will not figure it out. I figured it out alone in therapy. And don't get me started on the era where I thought potential was a personality trait. The potential phase. See, I can see myself thinking then, he's not there yet, but no, stop right there. That sentence is the problem. When we date who people could become, well, who they could become with enough time, patience, emotional labor, and divine intervention, we create a problem for ourselves. And that's what I was doing. I was dating the potential. Meanwhile, my peace was in there like, girl, what are you doing? Eventually, I had to admit something to myself. I wasn't bad at dating. I was dating without intention. I was showing up curious, charming, open, but not always clear. And being clear, having clarity, that's the grown folk flex. So let's talk about some common dating mistakes and how we can do better, because we'll talk to our friends about how bad the date was. You'll be like, man, this date was so bad, blah, blah, blah. Or, girl, you ain't gonna believe what happened on this date. And it's always the other person's fault. We never talk about the mistakes that we make. So take a sip and let's talk about it. Mistake number 1, dating while emotionally unavailable. Let's start here saying, I'm open, but you avoid depth. You want attention, but you don't want responsibility. You enjoy connection, but there's no consistency. If you don't have the emotional capacity to respond consistently, then don't audition someone for a role that you don't plan to fill. You can do better in this by being honest about your emotional bandwidth. You can pause dating when your life is overwhelming, and you can communicate clearly instead of disappearing or ghosting, as we call it. Mistake number 2, trying to skip the process. Okay, now what does this look like? Well, it looks like oversharing on date 1. Look, this person across from you does not need to know about your blood type, what time you were born, how your mom met your dad, how your cousin's marriage is going, what happened at work 3 weeks ago and how it's still. They don't need to know all of that. Stop oversharing on the first date. Stop rushing intimacy, because that can create a trauma bond disguised as you being vulnerable. Connection deepens through rhythm, not shortcuts. And you can do better by letting curiosity grow, letting trust earn access, and letting attraction breathe. And remember, if it's real, it won't rush you. Mistake number 3, confusing chemistry for compatibility. Chemistry opens the door. Compatibility decides whether you stay or not. You need to ask better questions like, do we want similar lives? Can we handle conflict in a positive way? And is peace mutual? If the answer is no, the spark that you have will not change it. Mistake number 4, dating from wounds. Unhealed wounds don't disappear in relationships. They just change costumes. Familiar pain feels comfortable. Chaos feels exciting. Distance gets mistaken for mystery. You can do better by healing first. Therapy counts, solitude counts, reflection counts. Now, here's where it gets quiet, because this part isn't about what they did. It's about what we allowed. This is the moment where chemistry fades and the excuses get creative. And then we start negotiating with ourselves. We say things like, maybe I'm being too picky. Well, nobody's perfect. Or, I don't want to start over. And slowly, without realizing it, we start shrinking our standards just to keep the connection alive. But here's the truth we don't sit with. If you have to keep explaining away behavior that doesn't sit right in your spirit, that's not compromise. That is self-betrayal. And this is exactly where a lot of grown adults get stuck, not because they don't know better, but because they're tired of choosing themselves. So let's talk about the last mistake, the one that costs us the most. Mistake number 5, negotiating deal breakers. You see, red flags don't turn green with patience. Standards aren't walls that you're putting up, they are filters. You can do better by realizing if it costs you your peace, it's way too expensive. And once you see this, you can't unsee it, because from this point forward, every choice becomes clearer. You stop asking, can I make this work? And you start asking, does this respect me? You stop negotiating your needs to keep someone else comfortable. You stop confusing endurance with effort, and you stop calling survival commitment. And that's when dating shifts. It gets quieter, more intentional, less reactive. Not because your standards got higher, but because your self-respect got stronger. This is the moment where you stop chasing the spark and start choosing alignment. And from here, everything other than self becomes optional. And that's a great place to be. Now, let me say something to the people who aren't single, because Save the Date isn't just for people that are still swiping, still looking, still trying to figure it out. It's also for the ones who have already said I do and just quietly stopped dating each other. Yes, life gets busy, schedules get full, routine takes over, and before you realize it, you're managing a household but forgetting your relationship. You start coordinating instead of connecting. You start surviving instead of romancing. But here's the truth: marriage doesn't cancel dating, it requires it, it needs it. You don't stop needing intention, curiosity, effort, and presence just because you've already put the ring on. You need to save the date with your partner too. Change how you think that flirting and dating is no longer needed because you have the person you desire. Not for an anniversary, not for a special occasion, just for a regular old Tuesday, because love doesn't stay strong on autopilot. It stays strong when you keep choosing each other on purpose. Now let's take a sip. As our glass gets a little lighter and this cigar burns, let's raise our glasses and let's toast to dating with intention, not impulse. To asking better questions instead of making assumptions. To choosing peace over patterns, clarity over chaos, and self-respect over temporary attention. To saving the date when you are ready to show up. Dating doesn't need to be dramatic, it needs to be deliberate. So before the next text, the next invite, or the next spark, check your calendar and your capacity. Until next time, keep your glass full, your mind open, and your chemistry personal. The next round's on me. Don't be late.